So you want to just jump into it? Okay. So Herman, we're here.
We're here.
You've shipped your game that you've worked on for how many years now?
I think it's actually been more than 6 years.
More than 6 years.
Have you ever worked on a game that long?
I have never worked on anything that long.
I highly recommend it. Take your time, ample time.
All right, my first question I have is, you guys are, okay, you've done Horizon now for 6 years. How many years have you worked on Killzone as a team?
So we started working on Killzone in 2000.
Okay.
And we shipped at the launch of PlayStation 4, right? So that's 13, 14 years, something like that.
Wow. Okay, so that's a long time to be in one franchise that you know in and out, you live in it.
Yes.
When did the first conversation happen where you're like, you know what if we didn't make another Killzone?
We started in 2010 with putting a brief together to the entire team. And I don't know if you guys would ever do such a thing at Naughty Dog, but that's kind of our studio culture, to reach out and kind of harvest all the creativity. There were hardly any guidelines, so we wanted to do something new. We actually did not exclude the possibility of another kind of game in the Killzone universe. That was also fine. I might have said maybe not puzzle games or racing games, but other than that, anything goes. And then we reached out, and I believe 45 guys and girls pitched from the team.
Wow.
And that was back in, I believe it was November, December 2010.
What did those pitches look like?
They were all over the place. They went from obviously a lot of shooters.
Is it like a PowerPoint presentation? Is it animation? Is it a prototype?
Very different. I mean, it really depends. So the artists have a big advantage, right? Particularly the guys that can make beautiful images, that kind of sells easily. But programmers, and some people just pitched an idea that was not a full game, but just a mechanic, or how to approach AI in the next game. So it's kind of from large, very big ideas to very small but very focused kind of ideas. And a lot of shooting stuff, some very different stuff. But actually fun to dig them up and to do a presentation of.
Do you remember one that's just crazy one that?
Well, we actually took two of them forward. And one was this kind of steampunk idea that is remarkably similar to the Order that shipped in its style. So very similar in many ways, the setting of it, some of the ideas for the gameplay of it as well. We took that and we actually transformed that a little bit more into a superhero kind of thing. It was closer to home for us in terms of the core systems being more in line with a linear experience. And the other one was Horizon Zero Dawn.
Okay, so tell me, you said 40-something pitches. Which members are there watching this? How do you decide as a group, okay, we're going to go down this direction?
I think I assembled a little board with Michiel van der Leeuw, our technical director, JB van Beek, our art director, Angie Smets, our exec producer, Matthijs de Jong, our game director, and a few others. So that was the group that people pitched to. And then we had a discussion about it, because in my world, a dialogue about stuff is always better than like a scoring chart of how great it is. Because I just want to feel out how enthusiastic people are. And that usually works well. But it was not easy. I mean, it was not something we all knew what we wanted to do, but that made no sense for us.
So you've made, and maybe you'll make them again in the future, more linear shooter in this grim reality, and then now you're going to this lush, overgrown, tribal hunting, open world.
Yeah.
How scared are you?
Very, very scared. And it actually was a big part of the decision that we wanted to make something that's just beautiful. With Killzone, there's beauty in it to me, right? It's grim, but we kind of call it gritty beauty in the studio always. And that was a big part of our decision. We wanted to put the player into a world where you don't want to evacuate away from it, you don't want to escape, run away. We wanted to have place the player in a world and have him spend time in it. And it is just fun, go explore and be in it. And we see that actually in the game right now, that people just don't do anything for a while and just, ride their horse, their robotic horse, or just explore the old ruins. And that part of the mission, I think, has been achieved. Just the beauty, chasing beauty.
That sounds very similar to when we were doing Uncharted, and to a larger extent, The Last of Us. Is the story is so dark. We wanted the beauty of the world to be inviting. So like you're saying, like you're compelled to explore it, to appreciate it, and that would contrast kind of the more darker themes we're dealing with.
Well, you guys must have kind of the opposite movement, going a little bit darker into Tilu, The Last of Us from Uncharted.
Yeah, it's
you wanted dark.
And that was just how the story evolved. It's not like we had like a checkpoint, like, oh, we're gonna contrast what we've done before. It's just that's the idea that rose to the top that we were excited by. So I'm curious. So I know from our experiences, like what we start with, like for example, Uncharted started as a steampunk open world game that then evolved into this modern day pulp action adventure. So I'm curious the evolution of Horizon, and how close is the finished product to what you guys originally envisioned?
In some ways, it's super close. If you look at sort of the top line pitch of it, the lush BBC nature documentary element, robotic dinosaurs, the red-headed lead character in it, all of that was in the original pitch, which, by the way, was J.B. Van Beek's original pitch, our art director. He was the guy that pitched it. So all of that stands, and it's kind of, it almost sounds like too perfect. We executed on the original vision. But at the same time, when you look at the core combat, for instance, the very first prototype we did had Killzone M82 guns in it, and you were actually firing your submachine gun or your machine gun at these robotic dinosaurs. And that very quickly felt weird. That's what we had, right? You start with the mechanics that you have. And it's just conceptually, to be making that much noise in a beautiful forest, that was wrong. So that was one of those moments where we realized, you know what, we actually need to produce not just the tribe's cultures in this world, the people that live in this world, back to kind of the Bronze Age, but the weaponry comes from that. You really can only have access to spears and slingshots and bow and arrow and traps and things like that. It was a big moment.
Did you guys go shooting slingshots and bows and arrows and do research?
Some of us did, yeah. There were a lot of big gun guys that had to get some practice with bow and arrow.
So I know when we make our games and we're polishing them, there's so much effort that goes into systems and aspects of tech that's invisible to the player. Like camera collision comes to mind. Like when a camera rotates and you don't want it to go through like a pole or a tree or something. Obviously this is your first third-person game. So maybe talk to me about something that comes to mind that's you think players might not appreciate, but was like a huge challenge to overcome for you guys.
Well, on a very basic level, when we're making a first open world game, a first RPG game, we had no tools whatsoever. We started making it with the Killzone tool set, which was not at all adequate for making a game like this. So the entire tool set had to be created from scratch. And then we wanted to make a game that was of a similar kind of resolution to a first-person shooter, but then in the open world. So the engine needed complete overhauling, and none of that is actually code in the game, right? The tools guys, that's why we love them so much. They are the kind of people that are making stuff that the end user doesn't see, but it makes everybody else on the team super happy. That's why they're real heroes on the team.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I assume when you're making a game like this for so many years that you have low points in production where things aren't coming together, or you don't even have stuff on the screen, and people lose morale, or they're starting to question the direction. How have you dealt with that? How do you make sure that people are inspired and they can see that far ahead of what this thing can become?
So many low points like that, right, during a 6-year development cycle. I think it generally took a long time for us to crack the core combat of fighting these robotic dinosaurs. Like amount of time it took us to make the first machine, which was that big T-Rex, the Thunderjaw. It was a year and a half. So during that year and a half, everybody starts doubting, is this actually ever going to work? What are we doing? Right? Where you're firing arrows at this big overpowering machine. How will that ever work? When we cracked that, we knew we were going to at least minimally have a good game in terms of gameplay. But that took an awfully long time to get that. So that waiting period, that was a very long time. Another low point probably was, it took us, 4 years of working on it before you can tell your friends and family, really. I mean, people talk a little bit, right, to people close to them. But to not be able to share with the world, what you're working on is hard. It's super hard. I want to hear about your experience, because you've had some time to play now, Neil, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
How far in are you?
So I'm not sure what the locations are called, but I'm at the desert. Yeah. So it's the first time I see like one of those flying dinosaurs, crocodile dinosaurs.
Yeah. I think you are in main quest 7, probably, something like that. Yeah.
I think I'm level 19 or 20.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah. And it's pretty cool that I'm doing things in a different order than someone else that's playing the game is doing it. So that kind of sticks to mind. And then the other thing that the graphics are staggering. I don't even think of it as graphics. It's like I'm in the woods. I'm in this overgrown environment, and I'm like, how are they getting so much foliage, such density in an open world game? You better believe I'm going to my team and saying like, okay, this is the bar now.
We have more foliage.
We have to top this. It's awesome.
Friendly competition with the Worldwide Studios.
And we talk about stuff. We compare notes all the time about tools and design. So, we're all super excited for you guys. We know how hard you've worked on this game.
That's so great to hear.
And then the other thing is how much I like Aloy and how cool of a character she is. And I'm actually really curious, what was the development of her like how was she pitched initially? And obviously, once you start writing, you have more depth. Once you cast Ashley, I assume you're getting more depth in her interpretation of the material. So just if you could talk about that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So Aloy is our construct. Right? Guerrilla created her, but Ashley, as the voice talent, has been massively influential. I would say that she came together relatively late in the process. It's a 6-year process, and we brought on our lead writer, the narrative director now, John Gonzalez, probably halfway through the product, and he's been very, very instrumental in bringing her to life. And he said to me that Ashley's performance really inspired him, so there was a lot of back and forth between how she delivered her lines and what he would write next and have her say. So that was a really good dynamic between him. It was hard because, people on the commercial side usually ask, well, can you do a half page on how she is, right? Can you type up her character? That was really hard. That was really a difficult thing to do. She came into existence while we were creating her, but she was always going to be certain things. She was always from the offset going to be an outcast, right? And that really determines how she approaches the world. She's kind of fierce and tenacious. That was always clear. But I think while we developed her, and after John gave her the main arc and a lot of the dialogue, she became kind of a person with a lot of irony, a good sense of humor, a very amicable kind of person with a big heart. Even people that are mean to her, she kind of embraces that. So she's kind of bigger and maybe not necessarily what you would expect from an outcast, but that just works for me very well in the game. Another big moment was when we were really looking for the right face for this character. We're looking at age, we're looking at and we're looking at big names, models. And then one of our producers was watching a Dutch movie. He was out ill, and generally don't watch Dutch movies. There's not much for you to gain or learn. But he was super happy, and he said this girl, Hanna Hoekstra, and she's actually a really very talented actress. She had that cheeky, kind of fierce, funny attitude when we met her, and she was perfect. So she's the likeness. She gave her likeness to the character. And then because she as a character, she's outgunned and outpowered by those massive machines. We needed her to be very agile. So the performance, the motion capture stuff, we used parkour actors for that. So Aloy is actually based on 3 different people, right? The face, and then the voice, which is a massive part, and then the motion capture performance.
I'm curious, I don't know if you guys set out to make the next iconic PlayStation character. But I think it's super awesome that, you know, there is a strong, I would say, non-objectified female character out there. And I know that you've been kind of tweeting like girls and women cosplaying as her. Like, does the team feel that effect, that like you're having this positive impact on the gaming community and pushing that diversity?
I wouldn't say we set it out as a goal during this project, but it's, John Gonzalez mentioned it to me. He said this was an epic journey, and with all epic journeys, that leaves you changed as a person that contributed. And I believe that this has really struck a chord with the team, that diversity actually works for us. It's not something we're trying to push, but it's something that just we found to be, we experienced it to be very invigorating. People really, really like it. The fact that there's not just a female lead, but there's so many different ethnicities and different kind of backgrounds in the world that we created. We have probably like you guys as well, 30, 35 different nationalities and people from all walks of life. It's really nice to see people represented, even though that wasn't the primary goal. And it's, we get a lot of questions about, from some countries more so than from other countries, did you not consider a male character, and is that commercially smart to do that? And the honest answer is we never considered not having her be a female character. And frankly, we didn't really set out for her to be a strong female lead, because oftentimes female leads need to be strong female leads. No, Aloy gets beaten sometimes.
Right.
Like she's fierce and strong in the sense that she'll fight back, but you know, she'll find her match sometimes, and so she can't always. We wanted her to be fundamentally human, and fundamentally human people can be really strong, but they're sometimes weak as well.
So strong to me means complex. At times she's strong, at times she's weak, at times she's happy, at times she's really vulnerable, and it's cool to see all those aspects of her as I'm playing the game. And because the game is so wide, and I have all these interesting relationships with different characters, I get to see all these different facets of her as a character.
Yeah, and that is actually embracing that complexity, because these days somehow everything needs to be a one-liner or a simple kind of write-up. No, these characters are many different things. She happens to be female, but her gender doesn't completely define her. Maybe partially, but that's only part of her. The fact that she's an outcast is just as important.
Sure.
But it's an interesting notion, and I'm curious to hear your opinion about it, because relatability, if that's an English word, is actually really important, right? When you make a character, to me there was a big difference between being able to identify with a person that's very different as you. Might be more difficult, but that doesn't mean that you cannot relate to a person like that. So to have those moments in there, for instance, and you've played that sequence when there's a little boy that's really mean, and to give you those emotional choices.
I tried throwing the rock right at his face.
Right?
Yeah,
right
at his face.
I never doubted that. Good on you, man. Good on you. But that makes you express how you relate to a character like that, and that even though you're never going to be a red-headed girl.
That stuff is always interesting to me, and I, for the most part, disagree with it, that I can't relate to someone because I'm a different race, I'm a different gender, I have different sexual orientation. And I always find weird that people say that, but I'm like, but you're okay playing a murderer. Like, how can you relate to that, but not to someone that's a different gender? So to me, it's kind of nonsense, and I find that the more a person is real and complex and human, the more I relate to them. No matter what their background or
that's a cool part.
Whatever identity they have.
There's stuff in every character you can relate to. Not to everything a character is, but to some parts at least, right? And to me, like I disconnect with a character not because they're different from me, but because they're
inconsistent, or they're contrived to try to tell some kind of plot point, and therefore the storytelling wasn't honest.
Yeah, so you got about 5-6 hours into the game now?
No, I'm like
8 hours?
15 hours into the game.
Really?
Yeah.
So you did a lot of side content.
Yeah. I'm like, I played a lot with like photo mode. I'm like, I gotta keep taking pictures.
So, are you directing the title that's coming out this year?
No, so
You're not.
The Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, TM. I'm not. I worked a little bit with that team to help set up the outline for that narrative, for the story, and then I kind of walked away and like really let them own it. So it's pretty cool in that, similar to Uncharted 3, where I wasn't really involved with that game, I get to play a Naughty Dog game almost with fresh eyes. That's pretty awesome.
And so you're not really involved in any of the play testing and providing feedback during the course of that?
No, I'm really trying to stay away. I do a little bit of mentoring with the people running that project, so I meet with them and help more with production and pipeline. But I'm trying to hold off as long as possible playing the actual sequences.
What a luxury position to be in.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. We'll see. I thought only I'll be able to wait until the game is fully done, so I think one of the upcoming focus tests, I'm going to sit down and play it.
Wow, man, we're excited about that too.
I'm curious for you guys, like, so you finished. You're not going to tell me what you're doing next, but I'm going to ask anyways. Are people already starting to work on the next thing? Obviously, people are taking long vacations. They've worked very hard. But I know there's people on that team that are so eager that they're like, they're going to take 1 week off and they're already back in the office working on the next thing.
Yeah, we do that as you do, right? You try to give people time off, but there's like the day one patch and there's a launch trailer, and so there's not really much time left. It's actually been, these weeks are actually vacation for people coming out to GDC and meeting their ex-colleagues and hanging out here, watching talks, and that is a big vacation. We had some of the guys that headed out to support Kojima Productions. We had a big group that actually did a world tour. They flew from Amsterdam to Tokyo and then around the world. So that was it's been Guerrilla Games around the world, because I think we did events in 15 countries or something like that. So the app group of people sharing their experience has been really fun. I'm due for a little bit of relaxation actually after this long process.
How much are you guys, I know this is sometimes unhealthy, but I can't help myself, go on NeoGAF, go on all these forums, reading people's impressions, reading reviews, positive and negative.
Yeah. You know, I know it's kind of en vogue to say that we don't care about the reviews and, you know, we don't look at the GAF. Reality is everybody does it, right? It is just, I think it's just normal and healthy to want to get a good mark from the teacher when you've done your homework, and that's how it feels. So people were ecstatic when they saw some of those really positive reviews come in, and there's a lot of great stuff. You know, photo mode thread on the GAF, for instance, is that we look at that, and some of the guys tweet it out too. Sometimes you find out about stuff first by being on the GAF, and I'm not that much on it myself, but we have some people that really mine it, and fair is fair.
I remember whenever our games ship, I'm there for like a couple days.
You live there for a while.
I live there for a while.
Yeah, you learn about your stuff.
Unhealthy sort of way.
You got to unwind after that too, because that's there's so much to read, and you can't read everything.
That's why you need like a vacation where you just turn everything off and just disappear for a while.
Go black. Yeah. The black box.
Yeah. Well, man, congrats! It's a really cool game. I can't wait to fly back home and get back into it.
Yeah. We'll talk about it more after you platinum it.
And congrats to the whole team. I know how hard you guys worked on it, so you should be really proud.
If you guys have people that want to play it and don't have copies, then give me a shout. And
they all bought it already, so.
Good, even better, right? Yeah.
All right, Herman. Yeah.
Thanks, Neil. Yeah. Really good chatting this morning.
Likewise.
プレイステーション